Calebhammer can dish it, but can't take it. Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Chanel. D'Angelo Wallace recently dropped a recording of his live stream where he was talking about Calebhammer. And Calebhammer heard all of the things that D'Angelo was saying, then went live for 4 hours to crash out and threaten to sue D'Angelo. Then D'Angelo did a response to Caleb's video, and in my opinion, completely destroyed him. And this whole internet event reminded me of Calebhammer's existence, and dang, what an unpleasant memory to resurface. Calebhammer has a YouTube show called Financial Audit, where he analyzes his guests' spending habits and quote-unquote helps them make better financial choices. And the reason he's gained so much popularity is because of his harsh way of speaking to his guests, making fun of them, calling them stupid, all of that degrading stuff. He claims that this is just a persona, that he just does it for the show, but there is reason to believe that this is not a persona and this is just who Caleb really is. So with Caleb, there are a couple things that I want to touch on. I recommend going and watching D'Angelo's video first. D'Angelo just has a wonderful way of speaking and putting things into context, keeping a very calm demeanor. It's really impressive, and I'm sure it gets all of the people he covers heated because of his calm, straightforward delivery, and his criticisms are always spot on. In his videos, D'Angelo calls out Caleb for spreading bigoted rhetoric and then claiming that this persona is just an act. But not only is he a complete asshole on Financial Audit, he famously cannot take any criticism without either deleting it or crashing out, which I believe just shows his very fragile ego. Caleb also claims to have a centrist political standpoint, which I feel like is just a cop-out, because based on how he speaks, it really does seem like he leans one side, and I will let you guys make your own conclusions about what side I'm talking about. On his show, he is constantly misogynistic, sexualizing women, clearly making them feel uncomfortable. He makes jokes about race and gender identities.
What kind of brown are you?
Indian. Yes.
Which one?
With the dot.
Oh, okay.
Repeatedly says slurs and uses some pretty harmful ableist rhetoric. There's a clip of him making fun of one of his guests' fiancé, and this fiancé is Vietnamese.
Oh, you're going to be so shook.
You're the man.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but I'm just calling it. He's a pussy, right?
No, he's not a pussy. He takes care of me well. Look at that.
Oh, he's such a little gay boy.
You're one to talk, love.
He is a gay boy.
There is the stereotype of Asian men that they are more effeminate, less manly. It's just a racist, harmful stereotype. He can say all he wants that it's not racist, but just because you deny something, that doesn't mean it's not true. He also has a guest whose child is autistic, and he refers to this child as the R word.
I do everything remotely.
You have a kid that has like, so...
She's not...
Well, but you're getting payments.
No, it's not payments. It's to help with her.
You're getting money for that.
I will
be. To do that for her.
Yeah, to help her with that. She's not...
That's not a bad thing.
That word is so mean.
Well, no,
I
was meaning it in the clinical. The clinical sense is mental retardation.
Y'all, it's 2026, and we're still using that word. Honestly, I feel like it's coming back into mainstream vernacular. And we need to shut that down because that's f***ed. And later, Caleb claims that he got consent to call this woman's child the R word, and that all of his guests are consenting adults. But here is my issue with that statement. The woman didn't consent to her child being called the R word. The woman consented to being on the show, and sure, she might have consented to being berated because that's kind of Caleb's MO on Financial Audit. But calling a child the R word? Crazy behavior. And when the woman pushes back on his use of that word, he's like, well, why? It's like a medical term. No, the f*** it's not. Loser ass behavior. And regarding consent, I hate when people use this as an excuse to belittle people. Some people, yeah, might have genuinely consented to it, but number one, belittling someone publicly, humiliating them and shaming them, calling them slurs, even if that person consents, it sets this precedent that that is okay behavior. And it's not. It's not acceptable. The other thing is, consent means nothing if there's coercion or if there's a power dynamic. And clearly, Caleb has the power in this situation because he's the one who's hosting the show and making his guests sign NDAs. The way I feel about this is very similar to the way I feel about Mr. Beast. Yeah, people might have consented to being on his YouTube channel. A lot of the time, these people are coming onto the videos hoping to win money because they're in a desperate situation. And when you're desperate, you'll likely do anything you can to keep your head above water. So this consent is exploitative. It doesn't really mean anything to me. Legally, yeah, it might protect you. Morally, I don't think so. The other issue I have with Caleb is that he hides behind this excuse that his show is not real life, he's not actually like that, and okay, maybe his guests are okay with being berated or humiliated, but publicly posting stuff like this normalizes bigotry. There's one instance that really pisses me off. Caleb has a guest on his show. He's a white man marrying a Cameroonian woman, and in order to marry her, there's a cultural tradition to pay the bride's family for her hand in marriage. It's called a bride price.
You had to pay your tax to purchase a wife.
Yeah.
How much did you pay to the tribe?
$1,000.
You bought her for $1,000.
I mean, it's like...
Well, I don't know if I want to use that language for that continent, but...
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a dowry. It's a tradition. If you look up Cameroon bride price, it's like a thing.
Caleb is coming from a Western perspective with no cultural context. And I know I talk about this a lot in my videos, but his insistence that this man is buying a wife is a white feminist perspective. Now, I'm not saying whether it's good or bad that this is a cultural practice. There are plenty of cultural practices that are harmful to women, and I'm not denying that. But it's not his place to make a judgment on this tradition without having the full context. White feminism is all about framing the world in this Western perspective, that women aren't free until the West says they are. Which is crazy because it's not like the West has any room to talk. Women's rights in the US are being attacked every single day. So this Eurocentrism, assuming that the West is doing this the right way, is fucked. Because the most important part is that we are listening to women and what women want and see as their own liberation. And so it's not up to the West to decide when a woman is free in a non-Western society. It's up to the woman from that culture to make that judgment. And our job should be to advocate for women in these situations by providing them the tools so they feel empowered, rather than us going in and intervening, making our own judgments. Caleb's rhetoric is so 2000s. It's dated, it's stupid, it's old, it's missing so much intersectionality. So respectfully, shut the fuck up. Caleb also uses a slur to refer to Japanese people.
It like blew up, quite literally. The turbo cracked in half. So
At it again.
To be fair, I remember that this part of history was very briefly passed over in my public education in the US. My fellow Americans would know that US history is very whitewashed. The way they teach it in public education really puts the US on a pedestal, and the Japanese internment camps part of history was definitely something that was brushed over pretty quickly because the US refuses to acknowledge any of the things it did wrong. Surprise, surprise. So it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't know it was a slur, but once he learned that it was, he should have apologized, not fucking double down. I also want to touch on Caleb's live stream response to D'Angelo. This live stream was 4 fucking hours. His ego was injured, so he had to go live to threaten D'Angelo, of course. Caleb claims that no one cares what D'Angelo has to say, which is fucking hilarious, considering this man went on a live stream for 4 hours to talk shit about another person who was just giving him valid criticism.
That was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. You have no idea what the fuck you're doing. You didn't research anything. You're a performative weirdo. You are not the moral arbiter of the world. You do not get to decide what is good content. You are nothing. You're pathetic. You've never contributed to the world we have. We have real results, real lives, 50,000 people. Every guest that's been on the show. 25,000 hours in 12 months. You've done nothing. You'll never be remembered for anything. You're pathetic. You are 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We've all moved on. No normal person cares. And ladies and gentlemen, say it with me one last time.
This show is not for you, and that's okay.
See you in court, bitch.
How about you take some of your own advice, babes? Maybe D'Angelo's video isn't for you. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have every right to respond to criticism. Of course, he has that ability. But then he should also expect people to respond to what he has to say. He also keeps talking about how he's going to sue D'Angelo because he's ruining Caleb's life. Imagine him going up to a judge and the judge asks him, "Plaintiff, please plead your case." Caleb responds, "Your Honor, D'Angelo Wallace was mean to me." Okay, dumbass. Another line that's so rich coming from Caleb is him saying that people need to face the consequences of their actions and be held accountable.
You have done no research. You have ruined your career. What is wrong with you? D'Angelo, dude, you are a broken individual. You have no ability to actually understand what people are saying. People like this actually need to be held accountable for the fact that they just say things and then they move on and there's no consequences. You're a bad person, D'Angelo. That is an actual lie.
Pot calling the kettle black, honey. Not only is Caleb a bigot, allegedly, he's also a predator, allegedly. There are screenshots of him calling a 16-year-old hot when Caleb was at the old-ass age of 23. And he confirms that this is him.
The thing that they think makes me look like a bad guy, the thing they think bothers me, is when I make jokes. A bunch of jokes with other people making a bunch of rage-baiting jokes in a group chat from like a decade ago, and they think that bothers me in the slightest. A text group chat where everyone's making insane, crazy jokes, and then they screenshot just mine, you know, and it's just like, oh, Caleb Hammer bad. It's just like, that has to always be the reality.
And he brushes it off as just some raunchy humor. It was just a joke, but it's very clear that it's not a joke, allegedly, based on how he's talking in these group chats, and also based on how other members in this group chat are responding to him, calling him out and saying he's gross. Before we end today, I do want to talk about the concept of the mediocre white man. In my first Ned video, I kept referring to Ned as a mediocre white man, and I really had no idea that it was going to get as many views as it did. And I wish I had explained myself a little bit better. I still stand by it because there's this phenomenon called the mediocre white man, and it's basically a man just being very mediocre at his job, nothing impressive at all, and his peers who might not be white and might not be male don't get the same recognition or have the same self-confidence as the white man does. So a white man can do a mediocre job but climb the ranks so easily to be at the top. What I'm saying isn't anything new and that anyone didn't already know, but in Caleb's situation, it really reminds me of this trend we see of young white men adopting this bigoted rhetoric, you know, like the red pill podcasters, where they have victimized themselves because they feel like they have been dubbed the villains of society by everyone else. There's this trend of white men who seemingly leaned pretty left suddenly do something that pisses off the other members of the left. And because they feel so scorned and scolded, it makes them hate the left and swing all the way to the other side to right extremism because they feel like the left is no longer a safe space for them. And this is so easy for them because they're at the top of the pyramid. They have no stakes. And now because their own community turned on them, they feel like they're the victims and can't handle when they're called out for bad behavior. I'm not saying I don't empathize with this. If you've never been marginalized, if you've never been criticized or called out for your behavior, it can feel jarring to suddenly be in that position. People who are so used to being in control, suddenly losing control, makes them spiral. I'll be the first to admit that I'm guilty of getting caught up in all the anger and injustice in the world. So when someone challenges my beliefs, I usually just respond angrily or shut them out because I don't think they're ever going to understand me. But I also feel like there needs to be room on the left side of the political spectrum to be open to having these conversations in a constructive way with those who oppose your views, because the anger is just going to fuel their own anger and motivations for going against you. I know firsthand how exhausting it is to constantly have to teach, constantly be tokenized, constantly feel afraid that someone isn't going to like you just for the way you were born. And so I don't blame anyone who just can't anymore and is tired of having to explain themselves over and over again to a group of people who just will never get it. It's not our job as minorities to explain why our rights matter. That should just be something that's so obvious. And it's so frustrating because so much of who we were was completely destroyed by a people that thought they were better than us. And so I don't blame you if you are not willing to have those conversations with people who oppose your beliefs. And I realize I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but the reason I bring this up is because Caleb claims to be a centrist and then uses bigoted language, tokenizes people in his life like his singular black friend, who he asks to validate that he is not a racist.
I was just accused by a man that I am probably the most racist man out there.
Which he is lighter than you, Robert.
Which, by the way, I will say, if anyone is willing to call me on my shit because he knows like it's like nothing bad will ever happen, Robert will always call me the fuck out. Robert, am I racist?
No, not racist.
Okay.
But it's clear that the way that he's speaking is harmful, and it's perpetuating more bigotry. There is even a video of him helping a racist lady apply for ICE. And when I say racist, this woman is fucked in the head. Yet he's platforming her and allowing her to spew hatred on his own show. And to me, that is egregious enough for me to dislike him completely. In his posted response to D'Angelo, he says, "I love every guest we've had, so when I'm told I'm sexist, racist, transphobic, or homophobic to them, or in general, I take that very personally. I love every single guest that has come on. Yes, we make over-the-top titles and thumbnails that leans into crude humor. And I roast the fuck out of people and say bad words. But not only do we get consent 5 times before we do, they literally ask for it. But to me, it doesn't matter. Because it's not crude humor. It's bigotry. And it's not harmless when you're platforming racists. It's hurtful. It's painful. And to me, it's a question of how far is too far for you? And I believe that there is only one side that's correct. And that's the side that respects the dignity and worth of people as they are, and not perpetuating harmful stereotypes that can damage an entire community just for clicks and views. At the end of the day, we are all human, and all we can do is our best. And I appreciate that. But also that means that we need to recognize our wrongs, take responsibility for it, and be better people. Alrighty, well, I know I kind of went on a tangent there, but his videos just really make me upset. The titles are just really f***ed up, and you can call me too sensitive, whatever, I don't really care. Because I believe it's just wrong, the way he talks about people, talks to people, just for entertainment, even if they're consenting to it. Because it's not harming only them, it's harming a community at large. Well, thank you all so much for listening to me ramble on and on. I realized I kind of took a break from the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni lawsuit, and I do plan on returning to it soon, but I just needed a break from it because it was pissing me off. Let me know what you think about calebhammer in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed your time here, consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video, and hopefully I'll see y'all in the next one.